All right. Welcome back to Big B Sports Talk again. We got our college basketball resident, Bryant Northern. How's it going, Bryant?
It's going good, Big B, man. How you doing?
Pretty good, man. This past week in a week in review for college basketball, man, it was a pretty crazy week. A lot of stuff went on, so let's take a deep dive into this and figure out who's good, who's bad, who won and lost, and just basically the week in review of college basketball. So a big game in our area, Indiana and Purdue, or our area where we grew up anyway. Indiana, Purdue. I thought IU looked pretty good. I did. They made some shots in the first half. I just thought, and they shut down everybody but Edie in for Purdue. I just thought IU had a decent game plan, a good game plan, and it worked. And I thought they just played well when they were able to win on Sunday.
That was my favorite game of the week. The Indiana Purdue game for me was the highlight of college basketball last week. It was the most enjoyable game. I obviously have an emotional bias there due to geographic location,
Right?
but I love that game. Trace Jackson Davis, one of the premier bigs in America, versus Zach Edey, one of the premier or maybe the best big man in the country. And what we saw was IU's team outplayed Purdue.
Right?
Zach Edey was the dominant force that we knew he could be, but without Fletcher Lawyer and Braden Smith and Gillis and some of those guys, we saw that Indiana's team just played better. And that
Yeah.
Indiana basketball team at home is really, really dangerous. They're very dangerous at home.
Yeah. They are. Played a good game. And if IU is going to play this way, they can do some damage, not only in the Big Ten tournament, in the NCAA tournament as well, if they're going to play this way. Now, getting that to translate over into either road or neutral games, that's a different story because that's kind of been their thing. So we'll see how that moves forward, how that goes moving forward. Purdue, on the other hand, I've been saying it all along. Look, I like Purdue as a team. I just they're still gonna have to make me a believer. It's odd that they lost as a number one team, but they still stayed number one. I think it's because other teams happen to lose this week in college basketball. Um, I think it's a problem, man. I still do. I said it last week. I'll say it again this week. When they play against athletic teams that can hit some shots, it's going to be a problem for them. And it was. I mean, literally, it was against IU, man. I just think that is their kryptonite. As good as we think Purdue is, and they are a good basketball team. Let's not try to shortchange them. They are a good basketball team. I just think that's going to be their kryptonite.
Well, Zach Edey didn't get a ton of help. Fletcher
No,
Lawyer could not hit a shot. If that kid hits just a couple threes, they maybe even come back and win that game. Braden Smith, who played savvy, wasn't himself. Gillis missed some layups. Caleb First didn't give a lot of production. I will look back at this game and we see some superstar plays out of Edey. Just bucket after bucket, shot after shot made consecutively. But every time the ball goes out of his hands, and Purdue just needed a big play from somebody else, they didn't get it.
no,
Jalen Hood Shafino, I really think is a star in the making. He is as good of a freshman I've seen at IU, probably since Eric Gordon. I debated this. Is he better than Romeo as a freshman? I think so. Cody Zeller really came on strong as a sophomore. I would say probably since Eric Gordon, we haven't seen a freshman this talented. I think that he is a pro prospect. I think he's potentially a top 15, top 20 pick. 6'6" guard who hit tough shot after tough shot.
right?
Because Trace Jackson Davis got slowed down in that second half,
Yeah, he
and
did.
Jalen Hood Shafino really picked it up. So I wouldn't say his coming out game because he's played really well, but on that stage, number one Purdue in-state rivalry, he put on a show.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's move on a little bit. Let's talk SEC basketball. Earlier in the season, a lot of people thought that the SEC had the best conference as far as basketball. That has been
I
proven
was one of them.
otherwise.
I was one of them.
And there's a team in the SEC. I despise them, but it's Kentucky. Kentucky is just kind of sputtering along, getting better. What, 3 weeks ago they were ready to fire Cal and the season was over. But Kentucky has put together some games. They're not blowing teams out, you know, and they lost to Kansas, and Kansas is just better than Kentucky. They're a better basketball team. But they're just kind of sputtering along, sputtering along. I just have a feeling, as much as I hate to say it, by the end of this season, I have a feeling Kentucky, I don't think they're going to be in the upper echelon. I don't think they can make a Final Four. Matter of fact, I'm positive that they can't make a Final Four. I'm not guaranteeing that because, it's March Madness and it's insane. So anything can happen. But I don't think they're one of those teams that you talk about making a Final Four. But I think they're one of those teams that can do a little bit of damage because I see them getting better. I mean, you can look at them and see Kentucky getting better.
They have gotten better, and this just goes to show you how delusional fans are. One
Yeah.
minute they love the coach and love the team. One minute they want to disband the team and get rid of Cal. He needs to go to Texas. And now everybody's happy again.
Right.
That's why, as fans, we have to be a little bit more patient, a little bit more reasonable, a little bit more realistic. This team is right where they need to be.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of Alabama, and we can debate Tennessee, they're the next best team in this conference. They are getting better and better. And if the shooting piece gets there, if that shooting piece gets there, if they can knock down open threes, if they can find one or two guys who can stretch that floor and hit shots, they're going to give Alabama fits. I think they have all the tools, all the pieces, all the athleticism. They're a team who can make a run in March. And although we say, hey, I might not pick them right now in a Final Four, Cal's been known to take a team like this and get there, especially after last year, that
Right.
first round exit. I think they need to come back with some fire and make a run. And this team, we're seeing some glimpses that they can do it. They have the pieces to do it.
Absolutely. I think Arkansas is still better. Um,
I would take
Tennessee
Kentucky over
is better.
Arkansas right now.
You think? I mean, Arkansas's
Yeah.
had some struggles. They've had their
Yeah.
struggles. But I think overall, when talent for talent, I think Arkansas is better. I think Alabama is better. I think Tennessee is better. Although Kentucky went to Tennessee and won, I still believe that Tennessee is better. But who knows? I mean,
I
I
think
just
it's where
think,
you play the game at. I think Alabama is hands down the best team in that conference. They're a top 4 or 5 team in the country.
okay,
I think it's debatable. Is it Kentucky or Tennessee for second right now? If it was at Kentucky or neutral site, I'm taking UK. If they had to play Tennessee again at Tennessee, I'd take Tennessee.
gotcha.
They're not beating them twice at Tennessee, but
No, no.
um,
I don't even know if they'll beat them in Rupp, but we'll see. We'll see.
right.
Um, Moving on. I mean, we've talked about it, and I think anybody with a brain cell understands that the Big 12 is the best conference, and it's not even close. It's literally not even close. Some carnage has gone on, which always happens to the best conferences. A team that we were talking about 2 weeks ago that can make a Final Four run has kind of hit a little bit of a wall, and it's my Kansas State Wildcats. Um, I don't think they're necessarily in trouble, but I think kind of the blueprint for how to beat them. Now, granted, when your best player goes out within the first minute and 20 seconds with 2 fouls, that can cause some problems. But I think Kansas State, talent wise, first of all, they got a great coach. We've already discussed that. Jerome Tang, outstanding coach. They have a good team. They play hard. They're super athletic. However, when it just comes for talent, Texas is better. Kansas is better. I think TCU is right up there with them. Iowa State is a good basketball team. I don't think they're talent wise that they are better. I mean, the conference as a whole is just crazy. And we've seen some carnage, and you're going to get that. But the one thing that I want people to understand is that Kansas State losing these games to conference foes, you don't hear recently, and I think they're probably going to lose at least another 2 games within conference, will get them ready for what they're going to see in the NCAA tournament because, as quiet as it's kept, it's easier to beat teams within your conference than it is out of conference,
Can
especially the
you
second time
imagine?
around.
Can you imagine them as a 5, 6, or 7 seed?
That'd be
Oh
extremely
man,
dangerous,
I
man.
wouldn't want to play them. I tell you
Absolutely
what,
not.
the Big
Absolutely not.
12 is heavyweights. If we had to compare
Yeah.
this to boxing, the Big 12 is the heavyweights.
Yeah.
Anything happens in a heavyweight division because one punch can knock you out. what we're seeing is so much parity in the Big 12. One minute I thought, oh, Texas, man, they're legit. Then they had some struggles. Kansas State, I called them a team who could make a Final Four run. We see them had some struggles. I
Right?
think what you're seeing is a class of heavyweights where hey, I beat you on Tuesday, and then I lose to this team on Friday, and
Yeah.
then this team who beat me just beat you by 20, and then I beat them by 5. I
Yep.
think we're seeing true college basketball parity in a league of heavyweight teams with elite athleticism, elite size, and I had made a comment on one of our last episodes that if those teams don't beat each other up, one of the teams from the Big 12 should win it all. But are they going to beat each other up and pound and pound and pound, and then their legs and their bodies are going to be worn out? Injuries in March Madness, we'll see those Big 12 teams suffer because of that, and that could be a thing. It's
You're
such a
right.
physical, strong, athletic conference.
It is. I mean, usually, I shouldn't say usually. The Big 12 tournament is always, and I'm not trying to say that it's better than anybody else's. That's not what I'm saying. Well, I guess it is what I'm saying. The festivities and what goes on, it's usually one or two as far as the best conference tournament out there. This year, it's going to be insane because somebody's going to get beat in that first day or the next day in the round of 8, the quarterfinals, that you're like, man, I thought they were going to win it all and could possibly go to the Final Four, and they're not even going to make it out of the quarterfinals. That's literally going to happen, man. It's just nuts how good that the Big 12 is this year. It's just absolutely insane. Just insane. Moving on, man. Let's ACC basketball. We can kind of get through this one quickly. It's amazing how bad this league is this year, Brian. I have never seen this league this bad this year. And I'm not just saying that because Clemson is at the top. If Clemson was a really, really good basketball team, I wouldn't care. But Clemson at its best is average at best. And to see them be where they are and see the league the way that it is, it's almost sad in a sense. You think?
I like it. Being a Louisville fan, it's sad for us, and it's sad
Yeah,
for people whose favorite team is in the conference. But
absolutely.
we have to get away from all of the same teams being the best team. Same thing in
Yeah,
football. We get tired of seeing Alabama be the best team, and it gets old watching the same teams win and dominate. We are now seeing the ACC be a weak team, the weakest team of the Power Five. We are seeing Duke and North Carolina, this new era of new coaches and this conference. I mean, even look at Syracuse and Jim Boeheim's an all-time great. They're not any good.
they're terrible.
This conference is boring.
Yeah.
I don't even watch some of the games anymore. It
Nope.
is, I mean, it's really sad. Who knows where they'll be in a year or two? But I think what we're seeing is a shift with transfer portal and NIL. It's not going to be the same great teams anymore. And we have a huge turnover in coaching. We've had some
Absolutely.
elite coaches in some of these blue blood teams who are now retiring. They're now moving on. And can these other people take the baton and make it as great as what it was? And I think it's going to be a struggle. But the ACC is really, really awful.
Yeah,
It's
it's
bad.
bad. I mean, and I know and I agree with you as far as wanting to get new teams in there. I think that's great. I think parity in college basketball is great. But the parity shouldn't be that the conferences of like the ACC or SEC or whoever are so down. It's fine to rotate the teams in, you know what I'm saying? And let's
Mhm.
rotate who's good, who's bad, fine. But when your conference is just bad, that's where the problem for me comes in, at least, because, like I said, it's not necessarily a knock at Clemson, but Clemson isn't that good of a foot or a basketball team, and they're at the top of the ACC, and they're not very good. That's what I'm talking about as far as the conference, man. It's nuts to me
How
that the
many
ACC's
teams from the
bad.
ACC will make the tournament, Big B? Be
Three,
realistic. We usually
three.
get 8 or 9.
Yeah, I think three. Because if you look at it right now, they may put North Carolina in, but North Carolina doesn't deserve to be in. Absolutely not. They don't
Well, it's
deserve to
always
be
about
in.
money, and they know North Carolina fans are
That's
going to
right.
watch, Duke fans are
That's
going to watch.
exactly
So if they
right.
make a financial decision, they might push for 4 or 5. Who knows what Wake will do or whoever else? But I think they're going to get 4. I think they'll get 4.
I
It's
mean,
just it's financially responsible to probably give the fans at least 4 teams from the ACC, but deserving, no, it could be
I
3. You're right.
mean, I get the financial aspect of it, but you know what? I think people, and look, there's North Carolina fans and Duke fans and whatever you want to call them. They're
And they
everywhere.
travel well.
That's right. At the same time, the NCAA tournament, they're not built on people going to the games because you look at those first round games, those stands are empty. You know,
Mhm.
for a few of those games, they're empty. Their revenue is based on how many people are watching, and I'm gonna watch, you're gonna watch, and everybody's still gonna watch whether North Carolina's in the tournament or not. I could care
Indeed.
less. I just want to see the NCAA. I'm into March Madness, and I think most people are into that. And if they do it right and just do it based on who deserves to be in and who doesn't, maybe they take, another team from the Big 12 that might have a losing record but absolutely deserves in. Or another team from the Big 10, which I think the Big 10 is going to get 9 teams in. Maybe they
Oh,
take
absolutely.
another team, from the Big 10 that to get 10 teams in versus putting somebody else in. I think that would be more deserving versus just
Mhm.
force feeding us North Carolina. And I'm not trying to bash on them, but I'm just stating the facts. They're just not good. At this point, they're not deserving, and they're going to lose more games. And if they lose 11, 12 games, North Carolina wouldn't deserve to be in.
I agree. Hey, if you're losing 11 and 12 games and 8 of those are in conference, you shouldn't get in,
Yeah, you got to get
especially
out.
in that
Yeah,
conference.
man, you got to be out. You got to be out. You got to be out. Here's a team that's kind of off the radar, but I think needs to get on the radar nationally. I watched this game from start to finish on Saturday at St. Mary's. They beat Gonzaga.
Mm,
Gonzaga's still a good basketball team. They're not what they were, which is what I think, you know, why I think that Gonzaga is a danger to win this whole thing is because Gonzaga's better when they're an underdog. And I'm not saying they had better teams. I'm just saying this would be the year that Gonzaga wins because nobody thinks that they're going to win because they haven't been at the top, of the rankings. They haven't beaten everybody. They've lost games in conference, which, for 3 or 4 years, they never did, and just dominated it where they're not even leading their conference this year. St. Mary's is a good basketball team. They get out and run. They're fundamentally sound. They can shoot the basketball. I think that's a team that we got to start paying attention to because I think that's another squad that can do some damage. Now, matchups matter in the tournament, but I think that's another squad that we got to start taking a look at because they beat Gonzaga, and I mean it wasn't a fluke on Saturday.
well, I saw the final score. Sometimes I don't stay up late enough to finish a game from the West Coast. Being
Sure,
in the Midwest, those
sure.
games are coming on at 11 p.m.
And we're
I've
getting
seen
old, brother. We're
Gonzaga
getting
once.
old.
Man, I've seen Gonzaga once this year, and I was not overly impressed.
No.
Drew Timmy, who's probably been in college for 10 years now, is really good, but I feel like there's just a lot of stuff going on with this team I don't love. And you said this is a year they could make a run. Anybody could make a run. I would like to think Gonzaga is one of those teams.
Mm-hmm.
But when I do my bracket, unless something changes or I see them play more, they're a team I would put maybe Sweet 16 max. I just don't love this team. I'm missing that elite guard play. I
Yeah,
feel like their chance to win was 2 years ago, and they
absolutely.
didn't win.
And
And I think that
literally
they're
they had
not
the best
built.
team. That's right.
Yes, they're not built to win it all. But they're a good team, St. Mary's. I haven't really seen play yet. The fact that they handled Gonzaga the way they did tells me they're good. But they're always good. St. Mary's is always good. When you check
Yeah,
out
they
St.
are.
Mary's, they're always one or two. Gonzaga's the best team in that conference,
They
and then
can just
St. Mary's
never
is
put
one.
it together in the tournament. They get there and then they literally lose in the first weekend or the first game of the tournament. They can never put it together. I feel like this year might be a little bit different, especially with so much parity in college basketball. I feel like they can do a little bit more damage. All the way out west as well. We'll stay out there. Pac-12. Um, UCLA is really good. Arizona, people got to start watching Arizona. We got to start staying up. We need to start taking naps in the middle of the day so we can watch some of these Big 12 games, man, or not Big 12, but Pac-12 games. I'm telling you, Arizona again. They are a really really good basketball team, man, that we are not paying enough attention to. And it's the same thing. It's out west. The games are on late. We don't watch them.
I
I'm
picked them
telling
to win it
people.
all. About a month into
Yeah.
college basketball, they were my pick. I've kind of wavered. I kind of like Houston now. But
Hmm.
first month of college basketball, I was more impressed with Arizona than him. They're just so big. They're
Yeah.
just so big, and they're not just big for no reason. They're big with some skill. They're big with some muscle,
Absolutely.
and we can think about that Purdue IU matchup and how big Edie was, and how Trey struggled against him. Arizona has three big guys, and Trace
Yep.
could not move those guys.
Nope.
So that game is still imprinted in my brain. Arizona's guard play, they're strong. They give me some Villanova vibes from last year, where they had those really strong, experienced guards.
Yeah.
Arizona has no holes in their game. It's just going to be down to, will they be better than an Alabama or a Houston on any given night? But this is a complete Arizona team that's built to make a run or win a title for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They're really good. Pac 12 is a good conference again. They're going to get at least, I think, 4 teams in, maybe more. USC. Watch USC. Really athletic. And they can shoot it a little bit. Watch USC to pod. They're not ranked, but if they get in the tournament, which I think they will, they're going to cause some problems. But they usually do.
Well, they're
They
long.
usually
They're
get in.
6'11", 6'10",
Yeah.
6'9", and with 7-foot wingspans, they're catching lobs on your head.
Yes.
They get up and down and run. It's a fun brand of basketball. West Coast basketball is
Absolutely.
fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now let's talk a little bit. I always say in basketball they're part of the Power Five. The Houston, but they're not Power Five teams. The Houstons, the Memphis, everybody in the Big East. Houston to me is the best team in the country. I just think
I
Houston
agree.
is the best team in the country. Um, and I don't know. I feel like if you get down to the brass tacks of it, they should be able to win it all. They have everything, and Kelvin Sampson is a hell of a coach. Now, we all know matchups and all that stuff, and we'll keep talking about this every week, but I just think Houston is the best team in the country. Um, a team that I mentioned last week that was going to be surprised that somehow can't beat Tulane. Now, Tulane's not horrible, but Memphis. Memphis is good. And everybody was saying, oh, that Penny Hardaway, he can't coach. And you look up, they're like 17-6. I'm like, what are you talking about? I mean, and they manhandled. They beat Auburn. They took Alabama down to the wire. I mean, they are winning games. They're a good basketball team, and they get into the tournament, which Memphis will get into the tournament. They're going to cause some problems for some people.
Yeah, because once again, what are they going to be? 6, 7 seed, five
That's right.
seed,
Yep.
maybe worst case scenario, they're an 8 seed. I mean,
Which would be a
who wants
nightmare.
to play them the second round?
Yeah,
Who
that'd
wants
be
to
a
play a
nightmare.
long? And they always stay with 2 pros on the team. There's always at least 2 guys that are on someone's draft board.
Yep.
Um,
Absolutely.
Penny's better and better.
Yeah, he is.
Um, is his when he had James Wiseman, that was his most athletic team. This
Yeah.
team overall is his best team to actually make a run.
Yeah, I think so
So
too.
we'll see what he can do with this group. And then next year, he's bringing in some other guys that can really go. Mikey Williams, who's one of the most famous high school basketball players in the country.
Yep.
Not that he's a program changer, but I mean, it's Mikey Williams.
Right. He's a good player.
We've been
Really
hearing about
good.
that kid since the 8th grade. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. And in the Big East, Big East got a lot of good basketball teams in it, man. They just do. I mean, it seems like every week it's changing on who's best.
What happened to
UConn.
UConn?
UConn was
What happened
great.
to them?
Then UConn just hit the skids all of a sudden, and now they won a couple games in a row. But I don't know what happened to UConn, man. I mean, they were number 4 in the country, number 2 in the country at one time, and now all of a sudden it's like, man, they can't win conference games anymore. I don't know what happened to them. Xavier is really good. Now, you talk about a conference that's chewing them up and spitting them out. It's the Big East. They are chewing each other up and just spitting each other out. And that's a conference that I worry about when it comes time for March Madness. It's like, okay, who in this conference is really good? Who can actually win some games and move on? You thought it was going to be UConn. I don't know. Then you think Xavier. I don't know. Creighton was supposed to be really good at the beginning of the year, and they were getting their head beaten in at the beginning of the year. Now it looks like they figured some things out, man. Tell me what you think about the Big East.
Well, I'm not quite as high on the Big East as you are. I know you love the Big East. I
I
think
do.
earlier we debated. You said they were a second, maybe third best conference. I like 4 teams in this conference that I think are really quality teams that'll make the tournament. I still like UConn, even though they're not the same UConn they were that were in the top 10
Right.
earlier this year. They've hit a
Right.
wall. They're struggling. I think there's some size issues. The guard plays elite. I think we're seeing some issues
Mm-hmm.
with their post play. I do really like the Marquette team, and you've been talking about Marquette all year.
Yes.
They're good, man.
Yes.
They're good. They're well coached. They're good. I also like Xavier.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're a team that can cause some problems. They gave IU everything they wanted earlier this year, and they're just Xavier basketball. I mean,
Yeah.
we've seen Xavier through the years make Elite Eight, Sweet 16 runs, and this is a team that could be right in there again.
Yeah.
I was really high on Creighton before the big guy got injured. They haven't been the same even
No, they
since he
have not.
came back. But I wonder if they could get that ball rolling again because this team has some players, man.
They
The
do.
Creighton team is good if they can just figure it out. And they need to do it soon because
Yeah.
March is a month away. They need to get to 20 wins. They need to have a resume that can get them in because when everything gets back to gelling the way it was, I think they're going to be a problem. But
Yeah.
obviously, Marquette is really really good.
Yes.
Xavier's going to make the tournament. UConn's still going to make the tournament. Um, I think we could get 5 out of the Big East, but I think it's going to be that 15 is going to struggle to get in. I think this is going to be a conference that's very, very top heavy, where their top
Mm-hmm.
3 or 4 teams are really good, and then everybody else is just not so great.
Right. And then, the Big Ten. I know we talked about IU and Purdue earlier. Big Ten's going to get a ton of teams in. They do every year, and then it seems like the last 2 or 3 years they've lost everybody but like one or two teams on the first weekend. I got a feeling it's going to be the exact same way. I see them getting a lot of teams, and for good reason. I'm not saying the teams don't deserve to be in, but at the same time, I'm just not convinced that they are the best teams or matchup wise that they can make deep runs or get to Sweet 16s. I'm just not convinced that all those teams are going to be there at the end. Purdue, I've told you my issues with Purdue. Indiana, if they can keep it together, I mean they're like a basket case. I'm just not convinced all these teams are going to be able to do some damage. A team that we all thought was going to be good this year is Michigan, and Michigan stinks. I mean, Michigan. I have no idea why. You can say it's Juwan Howard. I don't think it is. I just don't think that they've gelled. But everybody thought Michigan, with what they had coming back and what they had coming in, you thought they were going to be great, and they're not great. So, Big
The
Ten.
Big Ten is tough. They're going to get 10 teams in, not nine for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, who knows what's going to happen with Rutgers and Michigan? Iowa's going to end up being. You're going to see a lot of Big Ten teams that are 7 to 10 seats. You're going to have some of those
yeah,
teams. Then you're going to have Ohio State, Indiana, Purdue, who are going to be fighting for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seeds. And then you're going to have 5 teams probably from the Big Ten. They're going to be 7, 6, 7 or higher, and they're going to be playing, really good teams the first 2 rounds, and they're going to get out it. And then
yeah,
that narrative is going to start. Oh, the Big Team isn't that good. The Big Ten, all these teams are in, and they're all getting beat in the first and second round. Well, when you become a 7 seed or an 8 seed, you're not going to go very far,
right.
likely. So I think that's what's going to happen is the Iowas. What's going to happen with Michigan State? They're looking like they're going to be that 7, 8 seed. So that
Absolutely.
first round matchup's important, and then when you win that next round, you're playing a 1, 2, or 3 seed.
Yeah,
So that's why I think a lot of those conferences like the Big Ten who get 9 or 10 teams in, they don't send a lot of teams advancing because well obviously you're not going to have all 4 teams from the Big Ten. There's too much parity. There's too many things going on. But I still think outside of the Big 12, the Big Ten is still top to bottom. Now the SEC is I think top heavy, but the Big Ten top to bottom is the next best conference for me as of today. I
right.
think between Rutgers, Iowa, Michigan State, Illinois, Ohio State, Indiana, Purdue. I mean, we've seen Penn State, Northwestern get some good wins.
Yeah,
I think we're seeing that the Big Ten is like really, really loaded with a lot of good teams. Maybe not great. They have a lot of good teams, and that's kind
right.
of my opinion of them right now. It's full of good teams, but it's on the low end of great teams.
Absolutely. Nope, you're correct. And I know being from Jeffersonville, we are rooting for Penn State. I want to see Micah get into this tournament. He's got it turned around. Penn State is a
Mm-hmm.
tough place to win basketball games at. He's doing a great job. I grew up with Micah. I mean, we're the same age. I grew up with him. I know everybody in our class that knows Micah. We're all rooting for them. It's going to be a tough road. They don't have the most talent. They don't have size. That's the problem with Penn State. They literally just don't have size. But if they're shooting it, they can beat anybody. If they are shooting that basketball, I'm telling you, I just Micah is so underrated as a coach. I guess he's underrated just because you don't hear his
No,
name a
I
whole
think he's
lot. But
underrated.
I think he's
And
underrated.
it's a tough place to play at. And, I've never met Micah, but I'm super excited to cheer for him, being from our community.
Yeah.
It's tough. No, they beat Indiana when Indiana was on their 3-game losing streak. They beat
Right.
Indiana at Indiana, and that was really cool, especially Micah being from Jeffersonville. But
Yep.
man, it's tough losing to a bunch of smart guys. It's a great school, great education, and they play really physical, tough
They
basketball.
do.
Once again, they're another team in that Big Ten that I'm telling you, you don't want to play them at Penn State. Coaches go
Absolutely
to
not.
sleep that night with one eye open, a little nervous because nobody wants to go and play them.
No.
I don't care if it's Michigan State. When you go to a Penn State or Northwestern, you know you're in for a fight. They're well prepared,
Absolutely.
they execute, they play hard, and they just might beat you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. So now, unfortunately, we got to wrap this up and talk about our Louisville Cardinals, man. It just one step forward, one step. Look, the one thing that I will say is that the guy this past week, the guys fought. They won a game against Georgia Tech, and then they fought like heck to beat Florida State. They were down, they were getting their head beat in. Florida State, look, Leonard Hamilton, I'm not afraid to say it, is underachieving this year. Usually his teams are super aggressive. He still has a pro on his team. They have underachieved mightily this year. But Louisville at least fought, to try to win the game. And that's all we're asking at this point is to fight. If you watched it on TV, look, Jay Williams gave it to you straight. He said, look, you got to support him. It's a mess. It was a mess when Kenny Payne got there. Whether you think that he's the coach that can get you out of the mess or not, you got to support it. And the kids fought. And that's all we're asking. It's one thing to get your head beaten in, but you're going down fighting because you're outmanned. It's another thing to get your head beaten in because the kids quit. And I don't think Louisville, although maybe outmanned a lot this year, they're not 25. Like Florida State beat them by 20 something at Florida State. They're not a 20 something point team, better team than Louisville. They just didn't fight. And they fought this week. And so anything encouraging signs, I was glad to see it.
I have quit. So early on in the season, I was heavy on, is this the right hire? This team isn't very good. And I was very, very critical of that group, to the point some of my former teammates and some former Louisville alumni were angry with me, and they thought I was too publicly critical of the coaching staff and whatnot. So I toned it down. I kept my opinions to myself.
Right.
I've now gotten to the point where I'm a little bit where Jay Williams is. It doesn't do us any good anymore to watch a game. We're 20 something games in and talk about how terrible they are on social media
Yes.
and bash them. Just let it go. It is
Thank
what it
you.
is. Stop beating a dead horse.
Thank
They're
you.
really bad this year.
Yes.
They're not going to get to 10 wins. They're
No.
probably not going to get to 8. They might
No.
not get to 5.
No.
Stop going over and over. I look at some of these message forums and fan pages, and it's the same people going over and over about how bad this guy is, and this guy can't pass, and this coach
Absolutely.
doesn't do this. And it's like, dude, stop. Enough's enough. We've done this for 20 games. Quit putting ourselves as fans through this emotional roller coaster.
Yes.
Don't quit bashing the guys publicly. Don't. I mean, at this point, if you don't like the product, don't spend your money at the game.
Yep.
Don't watch it. Don't watch it.
Don't
Don't
watch it.
put yourself through that. I didn't watch the last game. I'm gonna be honest with you, because I'm just not there mentally to watch them play right
Sure.
now. Maybe at some point I'll watch them again, but right now I'm just kind of over it. I'm not going back to another game this year. I'm not.
Right.
I'm maybe next year we'll start fresh, and I'll be like, you know what, I'm ready to come back. But it's been hard for me as a fan to enjoy watching this. I hear some different things. I got a buddy with the son on the team, and I hear some different things from his perspective. I just think at this point, Jay Williams hit it on the head. Kenny Payne's coming back. He's not getting fired.
No.
To just continue to bash them publicly,
Doesn't do
it's just a
anybody
waste of
any
your
good.
time. It doesn't do anybody any good, man.
No.
It is what it is.
Well, I've got to the point, and we'll wrap it up. I've got to the point where I'm just asking people, do you want to see the team win? Or are you more concerned about being right that Kenny Payne is not the right hire? I've actually had
There
people
are some people
say,
who want them to lose so he can get
yes,
fired. I know people
yes,
who are there.
there are
Yep.
people that are actually saying, nope, I'd rather see him lose so that we can get him out of here. And I'm like, well, wait a minute now. And how is it, are you really a fan if you're saying you want them to lose? Because my opinion is, I don't care, and I've said it literally, I don't care if a field mouse is the coach. All I want Louisville to do is win. That's all I want them to do, is just win. It doesn't matter who the coach is. And for the people to actually come out and say, no, I don't want them to win because I don't think, and they hide behind, well, I don't think he's the right hire. I go, but I'm not asking you that. I'm asking you, do you want him to turn it around? Nope, I don't, because I don't think he's the right hire. I'm like, wow.
I think it's hard to be a real fan and want a team to lose in
Yeah.
hopes that they'll fire them. I mean, at some point, you would hope that I hope they turn it around. I hope they get better, whether he's the coach or not going forward. So, rooting for your team to lose, I think, is a little odd. I'll never be that fan, but I'm just at the point now as a fan where I might not catch every game. I don't feel this sense of urgency to turn on the TV and, oh, let me tune in. My Cards are playing. I'm just kind of like,
Well,
I'll
they've
check up
ruined
on
it for
this.
us. The team
Yeah.
and their effort has kind of ruined it for us because we're
Mhm.
not used to seeing guys not give the type of effort that's required. And I know Kenny
It's
Payne.
always hard to watch bad basketball.
Yeah, man, it is. It's just hard to watch bad basketball, and it's bad basketball. I mean, it just
It's
is.
bad.
My goodness,
It's
it's
bad.
bad. So, all right, man. Well, I appreciate you jumping in again as always, man. We will do this again
Sir.
next week. Um, anything else that you need to that you want to plug? I know that you got your stuff going on, man. Tell us again where we can find you and what you got going on.
Currently on social media, it's just Bryant Northern. I use Facebook as my avenue to talk to clients and promote my business. I'm a personal trainer. I do all the way as young as 5 years old up to guys who come back from college and whatnot. We do the basic fundamentals from footwork, pivoting, dribbling with each hand, to more advanced skill work. But this is my avenue of giving back and doing what I love. I get to be a professional basketball trainer. I work with youth and young men and women of all ages in this community and neighboring communities and help them try to get better and navigate that process of AAU and school ball and recruiting. So that's kind
Absolutely,
of my
man.
gig.
Absolutely. We appreciate it, man. And again,
Thank you.
thank you, and thank you everybody for tuning in.